Leeds United have a hell of a lot to keep in mind over the next few weeks and months, with a few weeks left of the transfer window in which the club can get in some key players and potentially move on the ones that are significantly less important. But beyond that, there are still more decisions to be made, and with Daniel Farke's contract coming to a close next summer, it's sort of interesting to see what direction that is going to go in. So in this video, I'm going to talk through the general sort of direction of Daniel Farke's time at Leeds United, some hints that we've gotten as to why I personally believe that the 49ers are fully invested in Daniel Farke, but what makes that investment a little bit fragile and how it could slip given form and various other bits and bobs. But before all that, just pop a like on the video, that'd be massively appreciated, and let's dive into it, shall we? So, Daniel Farke had a little bit of a conversation about his contract after the match against Manchester United, in which he was asked by reporters, are you paying any attention to your contract? You've got less than 12 months left on it now, so what exactly is going on there? Understandable question, completely fine. A manager with a low running contract is a conversation that needs to happen. But Daniel Farke was incredibly quick to shut that down. He essentially said, I don't really have time to think about that. We've not got time to focus on my contract. Instead, we need to pay all of the attention that we can to Leeds United, to pre-season, to the transfer window, and then we'll work on that a little bit further down the line. However, I personally believe that there are plenty of hints throughout the transfer window itself that Daniel Farke is very, very secure in his position, and without having formally done it with a new contract, the 49ers are functionally set on the fact that Daniel Farke will be running the football club for quite a while to come. First of all, mainly because Leeds United are fully going all in on Daniel Farke himself and his targets. For example, I'm going to run through this window alone. James Trafford broke the transfer record for the club and was reportedly one of the main targets that Daniel Farke wanted for a goalkeeper last summer. We'll get into that in a little bit more detail later on, but I think that's worthy of a lot of discussion. In addition to that, Tariq Muharemovic, we saw how important Pascal Struijk was to Daniel Farke and the way that he played, so the board immediately went, right, okay, we'll replace him with a player with an almost identical profile that is just better, which is a fantastic move. And now we've got the move for Nico Elvedi, who is someone that has worked with Daniel Farke in the past. I believe he was Daniel Farke's captain when he was running Mönchengladbach. And ultimately all of that means that things are feeling very, very Daniel Farke-y in the transfer window, and that's not something that you tend to do unless you are all in on your manager. A lot of the times, clubs with a director of football in place and sort of a system going on will not sign players just for one manager. Instead, they'll sign players that are very sort of versatile, and you could work for Daniel Farke, or you could work for whoever the hell is next around the corner. You could work for a Marco Rosa, Iraola, whoever the hell. They will sign flexibly, not just what this manager wants, which is the difference between a head coach who doesn't get involved with the recruitment and a manager who does. Daniel Farke very clearly on the manager side at the moment, and it's not just players coming in either, because Elvedi is a very Daniel Farke style signing. It's someone that he's worked with before, big lad, perfect fit. It's also the players that are leaving the club and the manner in which that they are leaving. So, example number one, in my opinion, is Lucas Perry. The fact that we saw there was an opportunity to sign James Trafford and we went, yes, immediately. And instead of say, well, we'll need Lucas Perry to stick around because we need a second goalkeeper, it became a question of, oh, and Lucas Perry, well, off you go, we'll find somewhere for you. It's looking like it's potentially Marseille now because Torino have fallen behind in that race, but at the end of the day, the point still counts that almost immediately Daniel Farke said, right, we'll move you on, which sort of adds up. He wasn't Daniel Farke's number one pick. This is what I said I would get to. Daniel Farke didn't have Lucas Perry as the pick for his next goalkeeper at Leeds United following Illan Meslier. The club's pick wasn't Lucas Perry either. They had different people in mind. But they came to a sort of consensus based on the fact that Lucas Perry was going for cheaper than he probably should have been going, which at the end of the day, when you're a promoted side coming out of the Championship, makes a lot of sense. However, we stuck around in the Premier League. We're going to sign fewer people this summer. We just are. That's how it works. We don't have a complete squad to reboot this season. So you're going to throw a little bit more money into those key positions like goalkeeper, and you can just tell Perry to go. And this has been a long-running thing with the 49ers having trust in Daniel Farke. If you have a look at any player that Farke's had a little bit of an issue with. If you look at Largi Ramazani, last summer, off he went to Valencia. Mateo Joseph started to kick up a little bit of a fuss, and the club basically went, right, okay, so we're not just going to let you go to Mallorca. We know that's what you want to do, but no, absolutely not, because that doesn't work for us in the slightest. So Betis. We're not going to let you go to Betis, but you can go to Mallorca on loan, and that's all you're getting. And it was immediately chucked out after that disagreement with Daniel Farke, which shows a lot of backing from the board, even all the way back to Charlie Cresswell. When Charlie Cresswell's, I think, dad was agitating for sort of, well, he needs to be playing more at this age and he needs more minutes. All of that came together to go, right, okay, let's just move him on because we're not really benefiting from this anymore. It's just causing a little bit of drama. And all of that combines to show that there is a lot of backing behind Daniel Farke from board level, but there is a chance it is a very, very fragile support. I say that. An interesting level of squishiness for the support, I suppose, in that we know that the board have a little bit of a leash to give Farke. The fact that it took until the Man City match for things to turn around, apparently the Man City match and the game after were the two where it needed to go right or he was gone. And it did go right, which was great, but you can tell that there's a little bit of flexibility there. But this season, I think that leash is going to be significantly shorter because all of the players have had time in the Premier League. You don't have the excuse of an adaptation period anymore. In addition to that, we've spent a lot of money in the first season. Obviously, over 100 million euros. And we're spending a lot of money in the second season, even more if it does turn out to be Trafford and Wilson and Mohremovic and Elvedi and potentially Paixão, depending on what happens with the Perry stuff. I might do a stream on that a little bit later, but we'll find out. All of that comes together to add more and more and more and more and more and more pressure that Daniel Farke needs to meet. And if he doesn't, then there is potential for a little bit of trouble going forward. So far, he's met all of those sort of targets that have been set for him. But this season, I personally believe that if we're looking fine by the international break, Daniel Farke's contract will be signed, ready to go. I think, to be completely honest, they've had these discussions behind the scenes already of, all right, what would your wage like to be? What are you looking at in terms of contract length? All this kind of stuff. These discussions will have happened. It'll just be a case of you can have the contract, maybe at the incredibly long international break after 6 matches if we're looking fine. If we're not looking fine, then we'll give it till November, which is the other international break, and we can extend there. And if things are looking really bad, off you go. But the club on the whole is in a very, very strong position with this. Because Daniel Farke is in a good position because he's got a great track record. The club are in a strong position because if things go wrong, the payout at the moment is incredibly low. And the fans are in a good position because everyone needs to perform to the highest possible standard in order to impress the other party. That's why the board are looking so damn good in the transfer market at the moment, because they need to impress Daniel Farke. He's not just going to bend over and be like, yeah, sure, I'll sign any contract, because he's experienced that at Norwich and it didn't work. So ultimately, I think we are in a fantastic position at the moment. There is a lot of trust in Daniel Farke. It could go if everything goes wrong, but I don't imagine it will. And we've got a honestly brilliant season to look forward to. So I'm going to leave that there, but let me know what you think in the comments down below. It'd be massively appreciated. And I am going to go to bed because I've got work in the morning and I'm recording this a bit past midnight. Hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you later. Toodaloo.